FM.
Welcome to another edition of Unconventional Playbook here on the UP with my guy, Mr. Patrick Buchanan. We haven't had to do this, Pat. You and I were talking before we got on the air. We haven't had the opportunity to do this. The Vikings went undefeated in the preseason, 3-0. Obviously, they started the season off 5-0, but unfortunately, they came up short a little bit today, losing to the Detroit Lions. Man, I hate saying that, man. I feel like Florida Evans on Good Times. Damn. I just feel bad. 31-29, Lions find a way to pull it out. Pat, what's going on, man? How you feeling?
Man, I'm feeling fine, right? I'm still rocking the perp, still whatever. it's a loss, right? And good teams lose too. At the end of the day, the teams try to go undefeated. I remember when Tom Brady then went undefeated that whole time with Randy Moss over there.
Oh, yeah.
Lost when it counted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good teams lose, man. And it's still a good team, and it's great to go through those type of games, right? Because now they see some things to fix, right? As we're ready to talk about. So there's some things to fix. There's some questions that I always say out there. So I'm gonna try not to be too critical, but I am going to be.
Yeah. We were out, my wife and I and some friends, we went out to Paisley Park. I'd never been out to Paisley Park to do the whole tour. Prince's old stomping ground. He's got his residence out there. He's got his multimedia studio out there. It was a great trip. For those of you who have not been to Paisley Park, I would highly suggest that you take the time to go out there in Chanhassen, Minnesota, man. It was great. But when I was there, obviously there were some Michigan people, some Detroit Lions fans that were in town for the game. They were a part of our tour, so they were talking a lot of stuff to us Minnesota Vikings fans. So I'm glad I don't have to see those guys today, man. But anyway, let's get into the game, Pat. I've got a lot of thoughts, and here's what I'm going to say, to people that are, here on the chat and chiming in. Listen, man, this is going to be a place where you can come and vent. If you have some emotions about the game, this is a safe space. This is welcome space. No take is too hot. No take is too cold. Say what you feel what you say, because this is what the UP is all about. So I've got a lot of thoughts. By the end of this segment, I'm going to put them out on the table. Pat, I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts about the game that I'm sure you're going to put out on the table. And just because we're critical, that doesn't mean that, we're jumping off the bandwagon or we're abandoning the team or we're not Minnesota Viking fans. It's okay to be 5-1. I would take that. I didn't pick them to be 5-1. But at the same time, even though they're 5-1 and we're in a good spot in the NFC, we still can find some critiques with this football team, and it doesn't make us bad fans. But as we watched the game today, Pat, what were some of the things that you initially saw and just some initial thoughts about the game today?
Initial thoughts about the game, and I'm going to start from the giddy up of the game is in being, these are grown men, and like when things are just going your way, right, you get the stop on fourth down, right? And you get a score, like one hitter quitter, Aaron Jones, right? And then you get another one, you get a field goal. Like, okay, you feeling good against the Detroit Lions being up 10-0, right? And my feelings were, my emotions were high during the game right there. Like, I'm a different person on the UP than in my own house, enjoying the game, right? I'm super loud. I'll be scaring people in the house. They'll be like, what, is something happening? Nah, yeah, in the game, something happening, right? So I had those high emotions, and the second quarter was like a bubble buster. And it was a bubble buster for me, but I think that second quarter was something that B-Flo needed. It was something that the defense needed. It was something that the team needed, right? Once again, it was another dry quarter in the second quarter, but that was something we need to bring us back to reality. And now we're playing from behind. Now we know what that feels like to play from behind this year. You know what I mean? And we'll get later into the game about that. But right now it's about the emotions, because right now I could feel what they're feeling like. Oh, we about to trounce these motherfuckers. You trying to go for it on fourth down like Campbell does, and we stuffed it. We looked like we were ready to go. Um, but then the second quarter happened, and it's like they had every answer for B-Flo, and they had every answer for KOC in that second quarter. In that second quarter, it was the offensive line. Like their offensive line was holy shit, coach. Like their offensive line was one of the most fantastic offensive lines of picking up every blitz that was coming. Like you couldn't touch golf in that second quarter. And I think that was just a testament of them scoring the 28 points. You couldn't get to him. He had time, and that was him and the running game of Gibbs torturing us, right, on defense. So I think we made adjustments at halftime, but that's my initial thoughts right away. It's like you got high, but you got hit in the mouth, and you needed to get hit in the mouth like that. So as you say, okay, we're not invincible because we've been playing up all game, like all season. So we never knew what this felt like. So this is being in a new space, and I'm happy we got into that new space, right? To be honest, because you're gonna go through games like that.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of post game shows when it comes to the Minnesota Vikings, and I've been really surprised and kind of taken aback about how critical some of the fans are after our first loss being 5-1. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be critical, but some of it was a little bit intense from some of the fans out there. So I think everybody in Vikings Nation or in Skull Nation, UP Nation, what have you, if you're realistic about what the season is going to look like, you and I both said that the Minnesota Vikings are not going to go 17-0. Okay, so if you honestly believe that the Minnesota Vikings weren't going to go 17-0, what does a loss look like? Like the reason why you lose games is because you don't perform. You don't perform maybe at the quarterback position. Maybe you can't get the running game going. Maybe you're not tackling well that night. Maybe the defense lets you down. When you lose football games, which everybody does in the NFL, there are just going to be those weeks where things show up. And maybe it's just a week thing. You go back in, you watch film, you go back to practice, you make corrections, and then the next week you look a little bit different. Where the worry or the concern comes in is if you start to see things chronically every week from your team, then that's more than a drop in the pan. Now it's more of a chronic issue that you have to fix. So my question to UP Nation and all the fans out there that are being critical of the Minnesota Vikings and KOC and B-Flo, I've heard the gamut. What did you think a loss was going to look like? Now, I've got some critiques as well, but I hear people jumping off the bandwagon talking about KOC's a bad play caller, he can't coach, and B-Flo's defense got exposed. I was waiting for that. This is about sports. Nobody's just going to let you walk in and win games. Hats off to the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions are a good football team. They are, even though they can be a little sporadic at times, Patrick, with all the trick plays and the play calling and going forward on fourth down. Outside of all of that, when you trim away the fat, that's a good football team. And that football team is going to make the playoffs. That football team is going to be a tough out in the playoffs. So the Vikings, like you said, they had to deal with this. They're going to have to grow from this, go back to the drawing board, and try to improve this team. I'm with you. I'm kind of glad that it happened, because now we got this undefeated thing off our back, and now we can go back and concentrate on football and try to find a way to get better.
Yeah, 100%. Like people jumping off the edge. Those are the people that wasn't even paying attention until we got to 5-0, right? That's how I look at it, right? You're not a true fan, and maybe not a true fan of the game, right? You lost the game by a 2-point conversion that you didn't convert early on. You could look at it and say it's a 2-point game, right? Now, are there some critiques in it? Well, you want to talk about KOC play calling? Well, the dry second quarter, once again, dry, goose egg, no points, offensive line. You're starting behind the sticks every single possession.
Yep.
Holding, offsides, holding, offsides, hold. That ain't has nothing to do with play calling right there. That has to
Yep.
do with focus up front, right? That has to do with doing your job up front. So let's get off of that one, right? I'm gonna get off of that one. If we do want to critique it, right? And you got to think, right? We were down 21-10, or
Yeah.
was it 21-10, coach?
Yep.
21-10, down 11 points. We scored. We did everything we had to. We took a lead, right? We did everything we had to. We missed a 2-point conversion, but if a true critique comes in, then I still love him as our coach, because this is the only one time this season that I felt like he was human, where he made a mistake, and that is KOC on our last drive. The commentators, I was sitting in my house with my family, and before he said it, after Aaron Jones runs for 5 yards, it's second down. I said, this is play action. You have to run play action. But he
Yeah.
runs the football, right? Where he should have been thinking 2 downs to get 5 yards, damn running the ball. They're not going to burn a timeout with 4 minutes to go. Let's do something different. Let's get the first down. Now let's get them to burn the timeouts, right? Or move it. But to be honest, I knew it, that he was how he was about to call it. And it would have shocked me, and I would have been coming on the show saying something different. I knew he was going to be conservative with his play calling. I knew it without a doubt, because we had a lead. And sometimes I wish that he would say, nah, let's put it on them more. Number one, you got them on their heels all second half. Like, let's go after them. Because what happens is, even if you get to Will Reichert's range, it's a touchdown game for them, right?
Yep.
But it was so much time left that I'm thinking to myself, why are you play calling for run says you want them to burn the timeout. When they didn't burn the timeout right away, that means let's pass the ball on second down. Like, they can't stop us on 2 pass plays to get a first down,
But do you
right?
think it's a lack of trust, Pat, from KOC to Sam Darnold? He had
No,
already thrown a pick during the game. Do you think there's maybe, not saying that he doesn't trust him completely, but do you think in those certain moments, he may see things in Sam Darnold where he's like, man, I just don't want you to screw this up.
no, no, because Sam Darnold threw that pick in the first half, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
In the
Yep.
second half, Sam Darnold
Yep.
looked fan-damn-tastic, right? I mean, he put some balls in places that was ridiculous, so no, no. I think, like, he came out at halftime right away, got JJ, found Addison deep when we was backed up to our deepest in our on our side of the field, and he goes and hits right. So I believe the trust is there. I believe that when he looks back, he's gonna say, I overthought this, and I should have went after them and play call this drive after them, right?
Yep.
To go after them, to be more aggressive instead of conservative. Like, I just feel like that's my only major critique to it, is that he could have did that. Maybe, in my opinion, Aaron Jones only had 14 touches. Probably he needed some more touches, but the reality is we ran 6.6 yards, and we ran for 100, and they rushed for 144, we rushed for 138, right?
Right.
I mean, we threw for 260, they threw for 280. Like, the part that the criticism that everybody's got is, okay, let's just talk about this. Two of the top 6 scoring offenses is us and Detroit.
Yep.
Okay? Number 2 and 3, run defense. Scoring defense, 2 of the top 8.
Yep.
Pass defense, number 27 and number 30. Both of us down there in the league with our pass defense, right? So everything matched up there. Turnovers, takeaways. We got another defensive score today. That defense doesn't score, or the defense doesn't do what it did in the second half. Like, we're not even in that game. Defense had to get the takeaway to get us to be able the opportunity to go up on them. It was a heavyweight bout, and I believe that B-Flo saw that offensive line didn't do it, and the game plan didn't work in the first half, right? To get after them. They picked up the blitzes, and that's what you could critique, and you could critique the play call back there. But beyond that, my man went 22 of 27, right? 22 of 27, and I think that's trust right there. He only had 5 incompletions,
Right.
hitting
Yeah.
multiple targets, right? We got over 100 on the ground. Like what? The penalties killed us. Like I don't even know what the penalty count is, Coach. But if we look at the penalty count, we got murdered in the penalties.
Yep. I know at one point in the fourth quarter they flashed the stats of the penalties. I know the Detroit Lions had 7, Minnesota Vikings had 6, and I don't know if we picked up a penalty after that, but we at least had 7 to 8 penalties for the game, I believe. Sorry, I don't have the stats in front of me, but we had a lot of penalties today. You're right.
Yeah, in those penalties, I guarantee you those penalties. You saying 6, 7, 8, whatever. It was for about 70 yards.
Yeah.
That's, I mean, come on, look that. I'm not going to critique the coaching in it, right? I wish he would have been aggressive, but I just thought up front was one of the first times that I could say that we were shitty with the holds up front, right? With the holding calls, right? And that was irritating me, right? It
Yeah.
was the second quarter. That's where I laid a game on, and we were stalled offensively because we're first and 20.
Yeah.
That's not normal downs. Normal downs is first and 10. So that's where I'm at with that, Coach.
Well, first of all, I'm gonna be in a little bit different space because I love our coaching staff. I love KOC. I love B-Flo. I love our coaching staff. But here's the thing in sports, like there's levels to this, man. That there's level to this, and anyone out there that pays any attention to me, they know that I'm a big time Ohio State fan. I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and we're not going to make this a Buckeye podcast or anything like this. But I said to myself last week, as great of a coach as Ryan Day is for the Ohio State Buckeyes, maybe he's just not a championship coach. Maybe he's just a coach that can win 90% of his games, and he can't win the big games. And that's okay. There's just level to coaching. There's level to quarterbacking. There's levels to playing defense. That's what makes linebackers like Lawrence Taylor so great. And there's been plenty of great linebackers, but nobody can be as great as Lawrence Taylor and Ray Lewis and those fellas. There's just levels to everything. And so when I start to look at, the Minnesota Vikings and what they do, people can kill the talk, in my opinion, and he's having a great year. But people can kill the talk about Sam Darnold going forward with me for what I need from this team in terms of being our franchise quarterback going forward. He is a great stopgap, man. He is a great stopgap. Call him a bridge quarterback, whatever title you want to use. This dude's been balling out pretty much the whole year. Has he had some dry spells and not played well? Of course. That happens to any quarterback. But for my taste, I want somebody that's a little bit different. And I'm not blaming Sam Darnold for this loss. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to point out, like, there's just levels to this. KOC keeps getting this title of being an offensive genius, and he very well may be. But there's too many dry spells, man. There's too many dry spells. There was dry spells with Kirk Cousins. There was dry spells when we had the carousel of quarterbacks last year. And ultimately, there's been inconsistent offensive play since the second half of the Green Bay Packers game. And so when you put the title of quarterback whisperer, offensive genius, that's what I am going to expect to see. So and again, I love my coaching staff. The only criticism I have of them is they've got to find a way to fix these dry spells. You build this 10-point lead, and I'm not saying, because the Detroit Lions is a really, really good team. Yep. I'm not saying that you're going to continue to play like they played in the first quarter, the whole game. But when you got your foot on their neck, you've got to find a way to continue to batter and beat them throughout the game. And for whatever reason, whether it was a lack of focus, the false starts, the legal procedures, man, they just let the Lions climb back in and gave the Lions a lot of life.
Yeah.
And that time, that second quarter where the Lions scored 21 points, man, that really hurt. That really hurt the Minnesota Vikings. And on the defensive side of the ball, I said it when we previewed the game. I thought the Detroit Lions were set up to probably give B-Flo his hardest time as a defensive coordinator, because the Detroit Lions, man, no matter what you say, you're right. They did a great job of really picking up the blitz today, but they can run the football. And when you can run the football and stay ahead of schedule, that handcuffs B-Flo a little bit. People don't realize that about football. B-Flo has to guess now when it's third and short, second and short, what the Detroit Lions are going to do. Are they going to run the ball? Are they going to pass the ball? They're going to do a little bit of play action. And that keeps B-Flo a little bit off balance. And I saw a little bit of that today as well.
Oh, yeah. You make a good point about something, and this has happened with KOC and B-Flo when we're up, and like it's all this prevent offense, prevent defense, right? It's passive, right?
Yes.
It's non-aggressive, and we've seen it on both ends of the play calling that we do. Instead of the aggressive mindset throughout, let's stay aggressive throughout. I get fuck the analytics in the game, man. Just stay aggressive and play the way and trust in your players, because I can appreciate that as a coach, right? If you telling me to go out here and stay aggressive, that's the mindset that we're always going to be.
Absolutely.
I'll give you an example, right? Last week, and this was us when we played Green Bay and we was kicking their ass. Like last week, who stayed aggressive while they was dog walking Dallas? Detroit Lions, because that's the mentality they have.
That's their mentality.
Staying aggressive. That's their mentality, where we have a take it off the foot off their throat. And we got to change that up. Are we more physical than we were? Yes. Are we more talented than we are? Or is it more exciting to watch us? Do we have multiple plays on both ends of the field? Hell yes. Like nonstop is action. But we got to stay in that I'm trying to dog you mode, right? I'm trying to, if I'm whooping you by double digits, triple, like we're not the type of team that wants to blow someone out. We for some reason in, one score games and being with KOC, we like playing tight games, and we have the team to not have to do that. We have a good enough team where we don't have to. And I'm really going to be looking at these next 4 games on the schedule, because these next 4 games really can tell if you want to really do that to a team or not, Coach.
Yeah.
The next 4, and I'm gonna just go down this list. At the Rams. Rams are a terrible team, not a good team. They're not in our category.
Right.
At home versus the Colts. They're not in our category. Jacksonville versus us. Not. And then at Tennessee. Like those next 4 games right there. Those have to be defining games right there. Yeah, those next 4 games, in my opinion, we should come out and be 9-1 out of those next 4 games, right? That's my opinion before we hit pretty much our divisional games. After that, we still got 4 divisional games,
Yeah.
So we just gotta stay more aggressive. There is one critical part that I do have where it was a critical defensive call too. As much as I'm criticizing KOC for not passing the ball, like I'll be honest, right? B-Flo to not have Gibbs covered on that 3rd down coming out the backfield as they're on their last drive. That's how do we not have him covered out the backfield where he gets 15, 20 yards up the side? Like that is the whole change. You stop them and have someone covering him. That the pressure can get there, but he had that outlet with no one out there to cover. So and maybe it was the right call, and maybe it was some miscommunication out on the field. I don't know, right? But it just looked like it was open space and no one was out there. So obviously there had to be some miscommunication. If you were man-to-man, linebacker should have shot out there with him. I don't know.
Yeah, they run a lot of zone blitz schemes, and a lot of it is off reads. And I've heard B-Flo talk about it before. So, maybe there was someone that was supposed to be in that area that read something different. You're right. Detroit ran that little swing pass out there. That running back was wide open, was able to get downfield a little bit. I don't know if you go man to man in those situations. Again, I'm not trying to be an X and O defensive guy or even question anything that B-Flo runs because his football acumen is way higher than mine. But definitely, man, I agree with you on that. That play was a backbreaker because they had that little swing pass out of the backfield to their running back and gained a lot of yards on that.
Oh yeah, definitely. But all in all, listen, man, I think we played a fantastic game, which I've heard people say, like, okay, we played a fantastic game against. Now it's 1A and 1B, right? Of the two best teams in the NFC. Those were the two best teams playing in the NFC today.
Yep.
Hands down. There isn't another team better than the Minnesota Vikings and the Detroit Lions. And I'm not even scared to say it. The Green Bay Packers, right?
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to say those are the three best teams in the NFC. The only other team that I would put in that category in the NFC, I'm not sold fully yet on Philly of putting them there. I want to see how Tampa Bay plays Monday night at home versus Baltimore, right? And that's another team that I'll be willing to put in there with them. But I mean, you're talking about two good teams. We'll play each other at the end of the year. It's a 2-point loss. If we scored a 2-point conversion, we at least play in the overtime. I mean, there's so many things that could have, like the strip sack, right? If that strip sack that Grenard gets, if the ball bounces up and not under Goff, we get that,
Yep.
it's going the other way. It's another one where he shoots it down the field. If the strip sack happens, they don't get it across the middle. We're going like it's inches, right? It's just inches of different things that can happen out there in the game. So it is what it is. It
Yeah,
is
well,
what
we
it
were
is.
5-0,
But
Pat, and I looked at this Detroit Lions game. I said to myself, and this is silly to say, but I'm just telling you my true emotion. I said to myself, man, this is kind of a must-win game for the Vikes, even though they're 5-0. I know that may seem a little extreme, but let me explain what I'm talking about because when you start off the way the Vikings did 5-0, man, there's a lot of fanfare, there's a lot of enthusiasm. You get people pumped up. There are now expectations where at the beginning of the year there was no expectations when that's what happens when you go 5-0. And I knew that the Detroit Lions was a formidable opponent. And I knew that the Minnesota Vikings could win that game. But I also knew that the Detroit Lions had an opportunity to win that game as well. They're a good team. They're well coached. Now, I said to myself, if they lose that game, they've got a quick turnaround on Thursday. And now they got to fly all the way out to California and play in SoFi. And the Rams, record-wise, are not a good team. But they still got some talent on that team. They're going to be getting Cooper Kupp back. That's a setup game, man. That's a setup game on a short week. If anybody knows KOC's system, it's McVay. I mean, he's from that tree. That game, although on paper it looks like the Vikings should romp them, that's going to be a little bit tougher of a game than people think. I just don't like that short turnaround in terms of preparation, in terms of travel, trying to get together, put this loss behind them, and go get after the Rams on Thursday. You have any concerns about that at all?
nah, because we talked about it at the beginning, and it could go two ways, right?
Yeah.
You're not emotionally there, and you play like crap, or they had the adversity. Like even in the second half, we showed fighting through adversity.
Yeah,
Right?
we did.
Like, and we showed fighting through adversity throughout. Like this was a different test of adversity.
Yeah.
But since the summer and KJ, I've been talking about us in adversity. This is adversity. They're playing pissed. Like if you were the Rams, this is the team that I think that I've seen. If you were the Rams, you probably would have rather us win than lose because now
Right.
you're about to deal with a hungrier team, right? Where you could have been dealing with more of a complacent team. Now you're dealing with probably a pissed off team. So I
Yeah.
look at it a little different on the short because I believe the short week is helpful for them because the it's still fresh. it's more fresh than Sunday. Like they want to get back on the field sooner to show that they can play better than what they displayed today.
Right.
And I feel that Thursday is a rough thing for the Rams just because of that. Like I didn't say nothing crazy about Detroit because I watch every like if you look around, I turn my cameras around, like I keep a TV right there, and then there's another one that's right above here, right, and then on my phone. So I watch everything. So I'm the Rams are on right now, right? Before we got on, I was watching them glimpsing, and I'm not. They got one person weapon, right? And that's not good. You need more than that against us, right? And you're playing a horrible Vegas team. So I no, if we would have won, I would have felt the way you feeling, Coach. But I just think they're going to be hungry, and it's a short time, and getting back on the field is important to them because they know the mistakes they made. They don't. They can look at film, but they already know the mistakes they made, Coach.
Yeah.
B-Flo knows. KOC knows. Everyone knows how they gave that damn game away. They know how they did it, and I just think they're hungry to get back on the field. That's my opinion, right? That's
Yeah.
my. I would want to get back on in the team that I've seen and what I hear in the locker room, right? And what I'm hearing in the media, all these things from them is a team that they don't they're not they're not happy, but they respect it. They did not disrespect that team. They just they kind of they 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 screwed themselves, right?
Yeah.
They screwed themselves. I'm pretty sure there was a lot of miscommunication in the defensive back. I'm pretty sure the defensive line said, yeah, we got 4 sacks, but he was too comfortable, right? The offensive line saying, damn, man, if we didn't get that holding right, we was good. Like, we didn't even need to hook somebody and hold somebody there. Damn, Addison, how do I not check to the line judge and see if I'm lined up right? Just little small things that's fixable. Like everything that happened today is fixable. And we're almost talking like they lost the game by 20, 10, 30, like they lost the game by 2 points. It came
Yeah.
down to a last second field goal that they had to kick to beat us.
Yeah. Well, it's just, it's I get it, man. And again, I was looking at, some of the super chats from other shows and listening to stuff, just to see what the vibe is going to be like. And I get it, man. When you raise expectations, there's a little bit of that. The one thing I try to do in my critiques is I try to stay consistent, and it really doesn't matter, who the quarterback has been, who the coaches has been under the regime of KOC. They've won a lot of big games, and KOC has really turned this franchise around. The culture is different. I think there's a lot of people that if they had the opportunity to play for the Minnesota Vikings, they would want to play for this organization. That's all KOC, man. When the defense wasn't working, what did he do? He went out and he got one of the best defensive minds in the game. Some head coaches would be threatened by that. When you bring in a coach the caliber of B-Flo, he did that. So KOC has done a lot of great things. The one hurdle that I want him to get over is that when we have these games, this has just been the trend under his current regime. When we have these games where there are expectations and you're playing at home, I just want him to come through just one time.
Yep.
Like I just want him to come through just one time. We at home, I can see if you're on the road, we just seem to fall short. And when we go back and we analyze the game, it's kind of the same old story. Well, we got penalties and we got turnovers and we have those dry spells. What are we doing behind the scenes to get rid of some of this stuff during the whole situational things? It will be interesting now because this team currently formed the way it is. They've never experienced this together. They didn't lose any preseason games together. They haven't lost any regular season games together. What is going to be the messaging to this team after this loss going into a week where they have a short week and have to prepare? I would kill to be behind closed doors and see what the psychology is this week behind getting this team prepared to play on Thursday, because together as a family, they've never experienced this feeling before of losing together as a team. And I would love to be behind the scenes to see what KOC B-Flo is telling the fellas.
I think KOC and B-Flo have less to say than what the leaders in that locker room have to say.
You're probably right.
Like, I think they have less to say. I believe that the leaders have already approached them before the coaches could say shit. Like, that's my opinion, that they stepped up and they talked about how they need to be better. Now, I believe both coaches would step up and do this. Like, my bad. Like, there were some things I could have got better at. There was things I believe that that's the whole organization as a whole of being able to self-reflect in it. And I think I can't. We play third. I can't. I'm so happy we get to go. So we got to do a pregame, coach. We got to do pregame. We got to do all this. Like,
you and I have a short week, Pat. We
got a short week too to get prepared, right? We got to get Patrick's picks in. Lionel's lock in there. We got to get the pregame. So I mean, I guess we'll be back at everybody at least Wednesday night. And then maybe have to do Patrick's picks still on Friday, I guess, Coach. But we got to get a pregame in, Wednesday.
Yeah.
I'm excited that we get to do this again in 3 days. We get to do this again in 3 days, and that's going to be fun on Thursday night, just being able to kick back. Dang it, man, I ain't going to be able to watch the game live. I'm going to have to watch it on my phone. My volleyball team going to be playing. Man. Oh, well, it is what it is.
Yeah.
But, listen, man, I'm past the game already. I am. And for them, let them be upset. They got a game plan for the Rams, short week. I'm past it. They play good, but on January 5th, there's an even bigger game than this one, Coach.
Yeah.
You know what game that is, don't you?
What is that?
That's versus Detroit Lions, final regular season at Detroit, probably for the division, probably for the number 1 seed. Like, I believe that's even going to be a bigger game, and how we play and how they coach in that game is going to be even bigger. I think that's even going to be a bigger game than what this was.
Yeah, it has the potential to be, definitely. One thing that is flying under the radar that I thought was just huge today is that Blake Cashman was out, man. Blake Cashman would have definitely helped our run defense. I mean, leads our team in tackles. The guy is a ball hawk. Him being out, being able to certify that middle a little bit would have been huge for us. That bolstered the Lions' offensive line a little bit more. They were able to get that running game going, man, and it was really, really unfortunate for him to be out. So yeah, man, I'm glad this is a short week. Potentially, we get the opportunity to get the bad taste out of our mouth. There's also that danger zone of possibly dropping that game. So now you start off 5-2. You lose two games in a row. What do you do with that? I'm expecting the Vikings to bounce back, from this loss. I just think some things that went on in this game where they could have done a little bit better. I think you hit the nail dead on the head. I'm sure the coaches behind the scenes were like, okay, we can do some stuff better. Hopefully a lot of players in that locker room would take some accountability on stuff that they could have done better. So definitely looking forward to Thursday night. I may have to cut practice a little bit early because we practice a little bit during that time so I can get home and watch that Minnesota Vikings game.
Oh, yeah, man. And there could be three faces we didn't see this week that we going to see next week.
Yeah.
Cashman.
Yeah.
Reisner. Hawkinson.
Okay.
We could see them all on Thursday.
Hey, I won't be mad at him. Hey,
I won't be mad neither.
Listen, I wanted to pick your brain because you and I really haven't had a whole lot of opportunity to talk about this before we get off. That trade deadline is approaching, Patrick.
Yeah.
That trade and there's been, lots of names bounded about, Dexter Lawrence and all these guys. What are your thoughts about being active at the trade deadline? Obviously, they brought in Cam Akers, but everybody, they're kind of expecting Kwesi to cook a little bit and make a splashier move. Do you give up assets to be all in for the rest of this year? I mean, obviously you're 5-0. Do you give up more assets? Because if you bring in an elite player, you're probably giving up a 2025, maybe a 2026 first round draft pick. And I know it depends on who that player is, but do you look to make a splash at the trade deadline with this football team that's currently constructed?
Where? The question is where? In the front seven, you don't need any help.
Well, people seem to think we need interior defensive line help.
I mean, there's some interior defensive linemen that I would not mind having at all, Coach. I ain't even gonna be like, if Dexter's here, like who gonna get mad? Like, are the Giants selling? But I know we got money, but if we know that we are staying with the young fella next year, and you have this $60-some million.
Yep.
I'm for it, right?
Yeah.
I'm for it because you have the money to pay him, but then you got to make sure you're still taking care of the people you need to take care of. So defensive interior, somebody that can take on 2 blocks that can free up these backers. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this, man. I've heard a lot of interesting things over the past 5 weeks. Minnesota Vikings going 5-0, man. I've heard some crazy stuff out there, and I just want to send a message to KOC and Kwesi and B-Flo and all the guys, more so Kwesi than anybody. I would just say, and I'm probably in the minority when I say this, the Minnesota Vikings just need to stay calm, and they need to follow the game plan. Follow the game plan. Stop giving up assets. You've got a good team. This season is the cherry on top of the sundae. Nobody expected the Minnesota Vikings to be where they are right now. Not too many people. Anyway, just ride this season out. Have Sam Darnold be your quarterback this year. Make a decision about Sam Darnold at the end of the year. Personally, I want to roll with JJ, and I want that $80 million. I want that $80 million in cap space to go out and continue to build this team. You've got a nice mold of clay. Stop thinking ridiculous. Stop being over the moon about this 5-0 record, and just stick to the game plan. That is my message to the Minnesota Vikings brass. I know everybody wants us to make these trades and all these splashy moves and all this stuff. Man, follow the game plan. Just ride this season out, and whatever this season is, and then we can start to really build in 2025. That's what I'm looking forward to, and I hope the Minnesota Vikings heed my warning, because you can get over the moon about this team and start making rash moves and give up a lot of assets. I know people are saying F them picks. No, I mean, you can't F them picks. That's part of the building block of your team. If you hit a home run in free agency and you start hitting home runs in the draft, you could have a really special team here in Minnesota. So I'm hoping Kwesi continue to follow the game plan.
Oh, yeah. And I think they will, right? Whatever they do, he has a plan, and they got to stay within that plan. So I'm not worried about it. I believe in you. Keep doing what you're doing. Still riding with you all day long. It was just a bump in the road, man.
That's right. And Pat, we would be remiss if we didn't give a shout out to the Minnesota Lynx tonight, going for another WNBA championship. The Minnesota Lynx got lost in all of this, Caitlin Clark hoopla, the phenom, and, the whole going back and forth with Angel Reese. And, of course, the Las Vegas Aces, they've been dominant for the past couple of years. The Minnesota Lynx have snuck underneath the radar, and they're playing a Game 5 tonight against the New York Liberty, who are trying to win their first WNBA title. Man, the Minnesota Lynx probably doesn't get a lot of credit that they deserve, but they're one of the most winningest franchises that the Minnesota scene has ever seen. So I wish those ladies and Coach Cheryl Reeves good luck tonight.
Oh yeah, good luck tonight, ladies. I don't think anybody was expecting it, but good luck for surely to you. They just like the Vikings, no one was expecting them, so let's see what you can do.
Yeah. UP Nation, make sure you tune in to that Lynx game tonight. Help support the Lynx. Hit that like and subscribe button as well to support us. Pat, anything you want to say to UP Nation before we get out of here, man?
Nah, UP Nation, we'll see you soon. Wednesday, get ready for the next game. It was a fantastic game. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday. We'll see you soon.
You want to pick a score for Thursday night, Pat, or you want to wait until our pregame show?
Just so I can get somebody to make some comment again.
I'm just kidding with you. We'll be back for our pregame show. We got a lot of great things coming up this week. Patrick's picks, of course, our pregame show, and also our postgame show for the Minnesota Vikings coming up. We appreciate all of you that tuned in tonight. We're going to keep building and growing this channel. Pat, it's a pleasure doing this show with you, man.
Yep. You too, man.
All right, this has been Unconventional Playbook with your host, Patrick Buchanan, myself, Lionel Jones. We will make sure to see you when we see you. Latre, take us out of here, man.
I don't know who I am. Can I say I'm a man? Am I losing my mind? Am I wasting my time? Do I know who I am? I don't know who I am.